Hello, and welcome to Handled-ish, Productivity for the Imperfect, a weekly podcast for those who want to elevate their productivity but are not looking for perfection. I'm your host, Betsy Hayes, and I am so happy you're here with me from Podcast Land or on YouTube. This is episode 35, Pause Before You Say Yes. And I am feeling so happy today. Oh my goodness. I'm teaching a two-part course on podcasting, all about podcasting or podcasting 101. And I had my first one today and I'm teaching the next one next week. And oh my gosh, it's just so fun to talk about podcasting and it was so interesting. There's just so much to say. And as I was reflecting and preparing for this course, I was really thinking about, oh my gosh, um, and launched this podcast in January, and all of the many evolutions that it's already gone through, and frankly, how really proud I am of myself to have established a recording and production and distribution and promotion process for this podcast all by myself, of course, with friends and advice and all of that. Um, but I'm doing it all on my own, and I'm really proud of that. And I'm also really proud of how efficient my podcasting process has gotten. And what used to take many, many hours doesn't take as long anymore. And I'm actually really excited to teach about that in the next iteration of this two-part course. And yeah, so more on that. I might even do a separate episode or a separate program on how I do process and produce my podcast, in case folks are thinking about starting their own. Perhaps my process could be useful to you. So I'm feeling pumped, feeling happy about podcasts, happy to talk about episode 35, which is about pausing before you say yes. And this was a result of a conversation I was actually just having a couple of hours ago with a dear friend who was talking about an issue that a lot of us have, that sometimes we will get asked to do something or invited somewhere or given an opportunity, and we will say yes, in our opinion, too quickly. Because again, our opinion is the only one that counts, right? So this is a situation where you say yes, and then later you regret it. That's the situation that we're talking about here. If you get invited to do something or get an opportunity and like your whole body, your gut is telling you, oh my gosh, that's something I absolutely want to do, you don't have to pause before you say yes. Please say yes right away. Those are the heck yes, right? That we all love. And if it's an easy yes and you want to do it, please just say yes right away, book it on your calendar, boom, boom, everything is done. But what we're talking about here are the things that in the past we have regretted saying yes to, things that we truly are not sure that we can fit into our schedule, even if they do feel appealing, or things that really are going to take a little bit more time and reflection to figure out if in fact we do want to say yes. So there's many kind of categories where the pause, the special pause before we say yes is going to be really important. I don't know about you, but I've definitely found that when I am able to say things like, wow, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really need to work with my calendar a little bit more and then I will get back to you. Or, I appreciate you thinking of me. I'm going to have to think on that a little bit more because I'm trying to, figure things out and want to make sure that I can say yes and keep my word. Things like that. I think people absolutely understand. They've probably been in that situation, and it just buys you a little bit of time. And again, you don't always need time. And if you don't need it, please don't take it, because that's just one more thing on your to-do list to circle back. But when you need time, please do yourself the blessing of giving it to you. So that way you really can, go and reflect. Especially if you're feeling pressured, or maybe it's peer pressure, maybe it's internal guilt, or some other kind of pressure, or what society thinks you should do, right? That's another form of pressure. When you're feeling that, please pay attention to your body's cues and acknowledge that's happening, because that's definitely when we want to hit the pause button. And again, there is nothing wrong with hitting the pause button. You have absolute permission to hit the pause button a million times for the rest of your life. There is nothing wrong with that. As long as you circle back, right? You don't want to leave people in, wondering what's happening. When you do push pause, it does give you something else on your to-do list. You do need to circle back. That's your responsibility, right? When we hit pause, it becomes our thing. But as long as we do that, right? As long as we, let folks know that we need a little time to think or reflect or work on our calendars before we say yes, then we can, take the time to do that. So we've said, hey, I need to think about it. So how do we think about it? First of all, again, pay attention to your physiology, pay attention to what your body is telling you about this opportunity. If just thinking about this, maybe it's an invitation to something where the last time you went, it was very unpleasant and you didn't have fun, but here you are invited to do it again. Maybe that's a hard no, right? Maybe that's not something that is going to serve you in the best possible way. Or maybe it is something that you really want to do, but truly need to take advantage of looking at your calendar. And then you can kind of circle back on something we talked about previously is how can you work this in by shrinking or by subtracting? Is usually a better plan than just adding. So if you really want to do something, what can you move around in order to make room for this opportunity? And if you can't, maybe again, you're going to have to say no. So pay attention to your body and what your body is telling you about this. Really be very mindful and tough, right? A little tough love on your calendar and see if you in fact truly have the time and space to do that. And then also, maybe you can just reflect on whether or not this opportunity is better than what you do in your leisure time, right? Because if you don't do this, that means that's time you could spend elsewhere. And where you would spend the elsewhere is that more important to you than whatever this opportunity is. Sometimes I joke about how I evaluate things. They've got to be better than my couch. And that's because, sometimes it's just absolutely lovely to sit on your couch and read or watch TV or visit with friends. And there's nothing wrong with obviously putting time in your schedule for that. And if another opportunity comes up, maybe you are measuring it against your couch. Is this something that I really want to do? Or is it more important that I, spend some downtime and relax on the couch? So whatever your litmus test is, think about that in a real serious way before you go ahead and circle back with whoever it is invited you to do whatever it is they invited you to. And then again, circle back, right? Make sure that, in a fairly short amount of time, it doesn't have to be 10 minutes, but, later that day or the next day, there's really not, you really don't need more time than that typically, unless you're waiting on an answer for something else schedule wise. If you do take more time than that, the answer is no, and you don't want to do it. There is, that is, I can't remember where I read it, but, yeses come right away, but no's are slow or something like that. That, if people are pausing, that typically means that the answer is going to be no. And if you are pausing, that means that the answer, or excuse me, if you are prolonging, if people prolong it, the answer is typically no. And if you are prolonging, then the answer probably should be no. So just give yourself this gift. Maybe try that this week. Maybe that can be this week's, handle dish challenge to, push pause, ask people for a little bit of grace and a little bit of extra time in order to make a decision. There's nothing that says that every decision has to be made in the moment. And I think sometimes we put that burden on ourselves. Perhaps society puts that burden on us. No, we're just going to hit that pause. We're going to evaluate. We're going to listen to our bodies. We're going to see what we truly have time for and we truly want to do, and whether it's truly important to either our goals that we have in life or the person that we want to be in life or how we want to show up in life. And if it doesn't match those things, then we can politely, say no. And that is also an opportunity. Maybe you don't have to circle back with your words. Maybe it can be a simple text message. Thank you for the opportunity. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to be able to fit it in. And then you hit send and then boom, it's done. People are very adaptable and, they can figure it out without you. They absolutely can do that. And excuse me. So that's something to think about as well. So look forward to hearing how hitting pause before you say yes is working for you, or if you've used it in the past, or if you have any, how to, let someone down easy when you want to say no, how those particular scripts are going, and any of that stuff related to this. As you know, I want to hear it all. So social media at Betsy Hayes. Hayes is Hays. My website, betsyahays.com. And please rate, review, share. Would love to get more folks involved in this conversation. Please tune in next week for the next episode of Handled-ish, Productivity for the Imperfect. Until then, take care. Please be kind to yourself, because you know what I'm going to say. You are doing way better than you think you are. Trust me. Take care.